have here 4 GIFs for you to observe. So, are they form of sports? Is the ball involved? How about the motion of the ball? Is there something unusual? Okay, yes. They all move in a certain curved path, right? So today, we will be talking about the motion that causes an object to move in a curved path. That is called projectile motion. So, what is projectile motion? Projectile motion is a form of motion in which an object called projectile is thrown along a curved path under the action or the influence of gravity. So these are some examples of projectile motion wherein an object is thrown, okay, and it follows a curved path. So here are some terms for you to have a better understanding about projectile motion. First is projectile. So projectile is actually the object used or the one that is being thrown upward. Okay, so an object dropped from rest is a projectile, or an object that is thrown in a straight path or in an upward direction is a projectile. So remember that projectile is the object itself. So here in our example, projectile is the ball being thrown. Okay, so that certain ball is called projectile. Pero hindi naman kailangan laging ball. No? So depende sa object na ginamit. Next is the trajectory. Trajectory, okay, is the path followed by the projectile. So in projectile motion, okay, a curved path, no? Tinatawag natin curved path na yan is the trajectory. Okay, so it is called trajectory. Next one is the range. Range is the horizontal distance it travels during the motion. So when you say horizontal, it lies in the x-axis, right? So this one is called the range. Okay, horizontal distance travels during the motion. So yung beginning and yung end point ng isang object after ng motion or after natin siyang i-throw is called the range, and it lies in the x-axis. Okay? Characteristic of projectile motion. Okay, projectile motion is known to be the motion in 2 dimension. Okay, bakit 2 dimension? Because projectile motion is a combination of vertical and horizontal motion that is completely independent of each other. Okay, so it is a combination of 2 motion, and this 2 motion causes curved path. Okay, kaya nagkakaroon ng curved path ng projectile motion. Kasi nga, dalawang motion or dalawang klase ng motion ang magkasama, no? But it doesn't mean na magkahalo sila because you can solve independently for the vertical component and the horizontal component of an object. Okay? So now, let's talk about the horizontal component or the x component, okay? Or the x-axis of an object. Okay? So, it is described as the velocity under the horizontal component is constant. So, it means that acceleration is 0. So, bakit 0 yung acceleration niya? Once the velocity is constant, okay, walang change sa velocity. So, ibig sabihin nun, walang nangyayaring acceleration. So, 0 ang kanyang acceleration. So, nagkakaroon kasi ng acceleration kapag nagbabago yung velocity. But in the case of horizontal component, walang pagbabago sa kanyang acceleration. That's why 0 yung kanyang walang pagbabago sa kanyang velocity. That's why 0 yung kanyang acceleration. How about the vertical component? So, vertical component or the y-axis, Okay? Velocity is changing, syempre kasi pababa, diba? It's either downward or upward. Okay? Pwedeng both downward or upward yung movement niya, no? So, changing siya because gravity ang nag-a-act dito sa vertical component na ito. Changing into 9.8 meter per second squared in every second. So, kapag pababa, okay, nag-i-increase yung kanyang acceleration. Pag pataas naman, once you throw an object upward, diba, there's a point wherein ma-reach niya yung maximum height niya, and once na na-reach niya yung maximum height niya, kusa siyang babagsak, diba? So, yun po yung tinatawag natin na vertical component of the projectile motion. Again, so under horizontal component, okay, zero acceleration, while the vertical component changing yung kanyang kanyang velocity. That means acceleration takes place. So let's talk about the equation used for projectile motion. So the equation here under projectile motion is divided into two types. So we have the horizontal equation and the vertical equation for projectile motion. Okay, so first we have the horizontal components in here. We have d sub x is equal to v sub x times time. Okay, so notice that may mga x and y, right? So yung mga yan, ang ibig sabihin lang yan, they represent a distance under horizontal component, while in here, distance under vertical component. Okay, ganun lang siya, no? Kaya may mga sub x and sub y. Okay, remember, kapag may x, under siya ng horizontal component, kapag y naman, under siya ng vertical component. Okay, another formula for under horizontal component, we have the v sub x is equal to d sub x divided by time. Okay, so kapag nawawala naman yung velocity. So, ito, distance yan. And here, ito naman, velocity. Now, let's talk about the vertical components. d sub y is equal to 1/2 gt squared. Okay? Or kapareho lang din po nito yung pwede rin nating gawing d is equal to g times time squared over 2. Pwede rin yun. Pareho lang din yan, dalawang yan. So, kung saan kayo nadadalian, okay lang, pareho lang. Okay, so bakit involve yung G dito sa vertical component? Okay, sabi ko kanina, under vertical component, up and down motion kasi yung ginagamit natin dyan. So, if up and down motion is involved, then free fall is involved. So, the only motion that causes an object under free fall is gravity. That's why, involved dito yung gravity. Kaya kasama siya sa formula. Okay? So, G here, yung G na yan, is a constant number which is 9.8 meter per second squared. So, automatic, kasama na naman si 9.8 meter per second squared or the acceleration due to gravity. Okay? And, another formula is the v sub y, kapag nawawala naman si velocity, is equal to acceleration due to gravity times time. Okay, so sobrang yan. So ito lang naman yung mga formula na ginagamit natin if the projectile is launched horizontally, which means horizontally, kapag yung isang object ay horizontal yung pag-throw sa kanya, okay, then ito yung mga pwede natin gamitin na equation or na formula. Okay, so here are some formula or equations used for projectile launch at an angle. So this time, itong mga to ay ginagamit if sa problem may involved na angle. Okay? So kapag may angle na involves dyan si cosine or si sine. Okay? So kapag cosine, under siya ng horizontal. Kapag sine, under siya ng vertical component. So, itong mga to, gamitin natin to sa mga problem solving mamaya.
So let's try to answer the sample problem in your module on page 15. It says here, a stone is thrown horizontally with an initial horizontal velocity of 8 meter per second from the top of a cliff 80 meter high. How far from the base of the cliff will the stone strike the ground? Okay, so pwede natin gawing illustration, no? So sabi dito, a stone is thrown. Okay, so binato yung stone from a cliff. Okay, from a cliff horizontally. No? So pag ganun yung pagbato. Horizontally. Okay. With an initial velocity of 8 meter per second from the top of the cliff, and yung height ng cliff ay 80 meter high. Okay. So yung height ng cliff. And yung velocity naman ng stone ay initial velocity niya ay 8 meter per second. Okay, so the question here is, how far from the base of the cliff, okay, ito yung base ng cliff, this one is the base, will the stone strike the ground? Okay, so kung halimbawa, dito lumanding, no, yung stone, gaano siya kalayo dun sa base, yun yung tinatanong. So, when you say how far, that is displacement, right? So, kailangan natin i-identify yung displacement ng stone. Okay, so first is for you to identify the given in this problem. So, under projectile motion, you need to separate the given. We need to identify if it is for the horizontal one or the vertical one. Okay? So, kaya meron dito nakalagay na VIX. It means that this one is for the horizontal velocity of the object. VIY means for the vertical. Okay? So, VIX niya ay 8 meter per second kasi horizontal siya. So, VIY niya naman wala. 0. Okay? Gravity, of course, that is already given. So, we have 9.8 meter per second squared. Okay? So, ako hindi ko na masyadong na ano yung negative or yung positive sign. So, the negative and positive sign, kaya lang siya nilalagay, it includes the, or it is the one that gives the direction. Okay? So, kaya nilalagay yung negative and positive sign. dy or displacement and the vertical component is 80 meter per second. So, 80 meters yung height ng cliff. Okay? Kaya siya ay nasa vertical component. So, first is, ang tinatanong dito is how far, gaano kalayo, diba? So, that is D. Okay, yun yung tinatanong. And the formula for D is dx is equal to vx times time. Yun yung formula natin for D. Now, sa given natin, meron ba tayong vx? Meron, di ba? So, we have 8 meter per second. How about the time? Kung sa given natin, walang time. So, first, we need to look for the time. Okay? So, the formula for time, pwedeng ganito yung formula para mas mabilis. So, we have 2D over G. Time is equal to the square root of 2D over G. So, time, okay, lagay natin yung mga given. 2 is a constant number, so hindi natin siya babaguhin. Our D here is 80 meters divided by 9.8 meter per second squared. So, first we have to multiply 2 times 80. 160 divided by 9.8. 16.32. Square root is 4.04. So, we have time is equal to 4.04 Okay, so ano mangyayari dyan? Since naka-square root yan, square root din natin to. Maka-cancel si meter, yung isang second, and yung kanyang square root sign. So, isang seconds or isang S na lang yung matitira. So, we have time is equal to 4.04 second. So, pareho lang, di ba? Dito naman, ang ginamit na formula is yung formula ng dy is equal to g times time squared over 2. Okay? Pareho lang din ang lalabas, no? So, we have, substitute natin, 9.8 meter per second squared. Then, we have time squared, which is the missing, divided by 2. So, yung dy natin ay 80 meters. Right? So, ang pwede lang natin gawin dito is for this two numbers to divide. So, 9.8 divided by 2. 9.8 divided by 2. We have 4.9 meter per second squared. Wala namang mababago. Kopyahin natin yun. Equal 80 meters. Okay. So, pag ganito na, hindi pa rin natin nakukuha yung time. We need to divide both sides by 4.9 meter per second squared. So, 4.9 meter per second squared. Cancel. We have time. Dito ko lang is okay, so we have 80 divided by 4.9 is 16.32, right? So we have 16.33. Wala. Cancel. We have second squared is equal to time squared. Diba ganyan? Wala namang time squared. So, gagamitan natin siya ng square root sign. Okay, so square root with sides. Ayan. Diretso na natin to sa calculator. Pwede naman ganun. Square root of 16.33 is 4.04. So, 4.04. Cancel. Yung isang S na wala. Cancel. So, 4.04 seconds is the time, or time is equal to 4.04 seconds. Okay, so pareho lang naman sila. So, kung saan kayo mas madadalian, yun yung gamitin yung formula. Okay, so ito na ba yung final answer? Hindi pa, di ba? So, ang hinahanap kasi natin is the dx, okay, or the distance from the base to the to where the stone lands. Okay, so gamitin na natin yung formula ng dx, which is dx is equal to vx times time. Okay, ito yung pinaka-original na formula, or ito yung gagamitin natin para ma-solve natin yung distance. So, our vx is 8 meter per second times the time na compute natin, which is 4.04 seconds. Okay, so multiply 8 times 4.04, we have 32.32. So dx is 32.32. Cancel, we have meter. So the distance from the base to the stone is 32.32 meters. Okay, so ganun ito.